Hey everyone, welcome to the horror show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Derk Fuego.
I'm Fuego here.
Guys, we just got back from an advanced screening of The Nun. Or The Conjuring presents Tales from the Crypt Demon Night.
The darkest entry in the Conjuring universe,
Yeah.
but the goofiest and silliest and strangest.
So, guys, we're going to do this. Obviously, the movie comes out in 2 days as we record this, so not that advanced, but still, we wanted to let you know what our opinions are, and we'll do it like we normally do. We'll give our overall thoughts, we'll talk about the story, the acting, the effects, the music, the sound effects, all that good stuff in turn. So my overall thoughts are, I was not a fan. I think, very much like Deadpool explains in Deadpool 2, you get 3 or 4 moments in this movie. And that's it. You get 3 or 4 moments to enjoy yourself, in my opinion. There's about 3 or 4 times where I was like, oh, that was interesting. The rest of it is stuff we've seen over and again in the James Wan-averse. The Conjuring movies, the Insidious movies, Annabelle, the Ouija movies, all of it, it's all stuff we've seen before, except for 1 or 2 things. But in addition to 1 or 2 things that we very specifically saw before in Tales from the Crypt Demon Night. So that
It's been a while since I've watched it.
Oh my god, really?
A couple years.
Do you know what I'm referring to?
No.
Are you serious? Okay, we're doing a spoiler section. We'll do a separate spoiler review, and I'm going to explain. It is a direct rip, and it is so unfortunate because I was like, okay, up until the end, and I was like, fuck you. No, that is not creative. That's watching another movie and doing it in yours. So that's my thoughts. Dirk?
I fucking love this movie. So
Surprise.
I don't know, man. Cecil, I totally dug this movie just because it went for it, man.
Did it ever?
Oh man, there was just so much in this movie. I thought that it was like there was tons of references to like other movies. Like I felt like Fright Night. I felt like there was Evil Dead in this movie. There was so many other movies other than the movies that Cecil's talking about with like the Conjuring universe. I thought that it had like this really like fantasy adventure feel to it. There was even like Indiana Jones moments in this movie. So I fucking adored this movie. I think it's my second favorite movie of the year.
Wow. Okay.
I'd still say that Hereditary is still on top, and then Littlest Reich is just the third one for me.
Wow, that's insane.
But I fucking adored this movie.
Wow, that is crazy. These are going to be some interesting reviews. Fuego, let me guess, you're somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, I'm the cream of the cookie. I'm the cream of the cookie for this one because of the fact that
You guys should switch spots.
this...
Oh yeah,
Let's try spots. This movie is beautiful looking. Absolutely stunning gothic imagery throughout. I love the look of it. And I thought the performances are pretty damn good with Demian Bichir, and I love me some Taissa Farmiga, man.
Taissa Farmiga's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, ever since, I saw her in The Final Girls first because I saw that before I watched those 2 seasons of American Horror Story.
Okay.
Yeah, but the story is nothing that we haven't seen before, which for me, I was just like, okay, this is tropey, but then it just would do the most bonkers fucking things in this movie. Like, it was the goofiest and silliest Conjuring movie. I feel like every other Conjuring movie took, like, Conjuring universe film, took itself so much more seriously than this one did. And a character like Frenchie is a big emphasis as to, I mean, it was the funniest of all of the...
Frenchie's secret.
Yeah, which was not that much of a surprise, but I had fun with it is what I will specify.
Okay.
And honestly, the third act redeemed it for me because about 2/3 in, I was not very happy with that movie.
I will actually echo that.
Yeah, and I was like, there was a couple key set pieces that I thought were cool and very well shot, and the whole movie was beautifully shot. I cannot stress that enough. And I like all this old European architecture and stuff that we got to see, and there were some very dope camera angles. But as a whole, I did not adore it or anything. Like, this is not tops of the year for me. But you know, I'm not to the I'm not to the level of hatred of this guy. So.
Well, and here's the thing. Let me
It had redeeming
say it
aspects.
did have. There were 3 or 4 moments, but it did have. It was a well-made movie.
Very well-made.
There were some really over-the-top CG moments for me, and I'm usually pretty.
But there was a lot of practical effects too.
No, that's
great.
but still, I am usually pretty forgiving when it comes to CG effects.
This was totally the goriest of the Conjuring universe as well.
Yeah, well, and there were a couple of moments. Yeah, there was some. Again, I'm gonna emphasize there were a few moments that were interesting and fun for me.
And effective.
The whole thing wasn't terrible. It's just. The fact that literally your climax was ripped from another movie, but you know what I'm talking about, though.
I do. It took me a moment to kind of jargon it.
So that's what I'm
jog my
saying.
memory,
Like there are some things that it does well enough, but there's so much that's ripped from other movies, like Derk says. But I don't think it's clever homages as much as straight rips in this case.
There's very little new under the sun at this point.
Yeah,
man.
I know,
So
but that is completely obvious what we're talking about, which we'll go into in the spoilers review. But man, okay. So, but what I was getting at is, in spite of those things, or setting those issues aside, I do think that it was an interesting enough movie. I do agree with you. I think the first 2/3 were a little too slow, a little too boring.
Yeah.
But the last third did make up for it, because that's where all the interest and all the reveals and all of the sort of scares were concentrated.
And that's where they went nutsoid, and I mean, Derk made the Hammer film comparison.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What comparison's that?
And then I don't even think that it was boring at the beginning. Like
Really?
there was
You don't think it
great
was
moments.
a little too slow?
Dude,
I actually thought it moved
I'm
pretty
gonna mention
quickly.
this because it's right out of the fucking trailer.
Yeah.
It's like when he's buried alive. Like,
Okay.
I thought that was a great fucking moment. I thought that
That was
they
one of
set
the-
it
that
they
was one of
set
the
it
best
up
set
so
pieces.
great
Yeah.
with him ringing the bell and shit like that.
Ring my bell.
I know, and I don't know. There was a lot of cool moments, even at the beginning. I know, like that you're saying that they kind of left it towards the end. That's when it just goes fucking bonkers.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I just really dug the character development with Frenchie and the priest and like her, deciding if she's going to be a nun or not. And I don't know, man. And I also thought like the 4 nuns that are a part of it, that was an interesting tale as well. I don't know, man.
For the spoiler thing, remind me to address your buried alive thing, because I want to address it, but I can't do it in the non-spoilers.
Okay, all right.
I am a sucker, though, for scenes with lots of fog and creepy-looking crosses. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff, based on the way that I was raised. And there's
crosses
so
galore.
much
That
of it.
one corridor that was literally littered with crosses.
Yeah, it's like there's a reason
on the ground,
why you
hanging from the
shouldn't be
ceiling,
going here.
and it's framed like almost as if you have to walk like across through it, almost. You know, that actually would have been really. Almost over the top enough to fit, realistically.
But if we're gonna talk story, though,
go for it.
Yeah. Story is pretty base, actually. So there is a suicide by a nun at this particular old place that has kind of a cursed history in Romania, and they send out
a sacrifice.
And that's almost borderline spoiler,
not
kind
really.
of.
You get that impression from the first scene. So
yeah, and so they send out Taisa Farmiga, who is an American in London that is
You're fancying up the Taisa Farmiga.
I like Taisa Farmiga.
Taisa Farmiga.
Yeah, she's great. But and then Damien and then Damien Bigar. Hey, I'm doing it with both of them, okay? No favorites.
I like it.
There.
Okay.
Yeah, but so he's somebody who is sent in from I'm presuming somewhere in either Mexico or South America or something, and they're sent to.
It's where the sexy accents are.
Exactly.
That's where he's from.
Yes, I've done my mics in space.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're sent to investigate this suicide and see if the ground is still being protected, I guess, and that's really all that we can say. Something that Derk mentioned when we were leaving the theater is that the trailer didn't. All the trailers did not really reveal very much
There weren't that many.
story-wise about
There was
this.
the one teaser that had the sequence that is in the movie,
Yeah.
so that was literally no surprise for me. But it got Marsha.
Yeah.
So
They
if
showed
you saw
scenes
the
from the
first,
movie?
if you saw the first trailer where it's her walking down the corridor, that is in the movie. That's not going to surprise you. But
Not placed where I thought it would be either.
But it also wasn't what I thought. It wasn't like the nun shifting herself. It was something else that actually was interesting and creepy. Especially, I'll tell you what they do well. And this, again, not the first movie to do this. And in fact, movies with dolls in them have done them plenty of times. But there's a lot of this. There's a lot of, a lot of spin and cracking
and then
of heads.
Scott Garcia's cracking jokes the whole time. He's like, someone needs a chiropractor. And I was like,
no.
I was like, come on.
It started.
I know. I'm not Scott.
I know. No, I'm just saying that's what you wanted to do.
I know.
I like you. Shh, be quiet and watch the movie. Shh. Okay. Now the story, not only is it what you said, but they have sort of a force has been unleashed in this sort of ancient looking abbey that is so amazing. It's part of the Gothic scenery that you're talking about. It's this giant castle in Romania that is occupied by nuns. And we don't know why, but it is explained why throughout the movie, which was interesting. I did sort of like the backstory. Again, there were things I liked about the movie, but ultimately it was just so much from other things that it just pissed me off.
It drew some comparisons in some ways. Have you guys ever seen The Church? I want to say it's an Italian horror movie, if I'm not mistaken.
It rings a bell, but I don't know for sure,
it's about just grounds being cursed and trying to maintain
I tell you what, the set design was very Castle Freak. If you've seen Castle Freak,
of course, Stuart Gordon.
Yeah.
Back when Full Moon still made good movies. It's been
that's been a while.
It's been a while.
But one thing that you guys didn't mention was that very first scene where it's like straight out of Conjuring 2, where she's talking about the painting and everything.
Yeah.
So
Literally straight out of Conjuring 2. They just cut it and put it in front of you again.
And I love
some
that
context.
because
Shared universe, man.
Especially with Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. What's the couple's name? I don't know that they're playing.
The Warrens.
Yeah,
the Warrens.
Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Yeah, and so I just love that they're constantly referenced. You know, even like in the first Annabelle, where you just hear the voice of Vera.
Well, that's the thing. This again, they're ripping from themselves because this felt so much like Annabelle creation by the end, didn't it? Because it was just like, here's how we dovetail into that movie that you like so much.
Well,
but
Insidious does it all the time too.
And
It's
so
just like,
but that's its own Insidious
all the
universe.
Marvel movies, though.
it's all James Wan though.
And that's the thing. I feel like whereas the Marvel movies follow a very specific formula, and that's a big shared universe, this James Wan-verse, they all share kind of a DNA and kind of a skeletal structure of sorts. And
it's the only other franchise that does it pretty well. Other than
True.
Marvel.
I will give it that. Okay, let's get into the acting, guys. So,
acting was really good.
I thought the acting was strong. I thought Frenchie was actually entertaining. So his character actually had some stuff going on, which was nice. I agree with you. I think Thaisa Farmiga is
Damien
really good.
Yeah,
Damien Picard. I thought they were both good. Damien Picard.
He was a little more on the wooden side.
It feels like something we've seen before from him too. Am I mistaken, or has he played a priest doing this exact same thing before? Because I swear to God, it felt like
Spanish cardinal kind of guy.
He did feel very much like the actor from The Exorcist season 1 and 2. Playing the Latin priest,
which I never watched, but I know
he's very reminiscent of that.
Yeah, I know the actor you're
But
talking
I thought that was good. The rest of it was just the nuns and things like that, and
they were effective enough. Although they all kind of I got them confused.
They were all interchangeable.
They all looked about the same, and you're like, wait, is that the?
There was one that had like a shade of brown to her, and then we don't know what happened. Just one. Just one. But they were all well enough, and then we do have to talk about Valak, because obviously it's a movie about Valak. If you saw The Conjuring,
and it was the same girl who played her.
Had to be.
It was because she had the same kind of
same facial structure for sure.
Yeah.
How dare you?
I'm sorry.
Jesus
hey, Tyson's got a
Christ.
deep nose thing going on.
What?
Too. A little bit.
Get out!
A little bit.
How dare you talk about these women, these fantastic actresses this way?
They're damn good actresses.
I agree with you.
That was his Homer Simpson moment, right?
But Derk, your thoughts on the acting?
I thought it was well done, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I loved Frenchie. I love that, like, yeah, there was some like moments where it was just so fantastical and like it was so.
As you told me
Like-
when we were
like-
sitting together, because Derk and I sat together, and then
I sat
Marsha
with
and
Marsha
Cecil sat
Parker,
together.
who is not here for the review.
Yeah.
Shame.
Miss you, Marsha.
Yeah.
No, he brought that Evil Dead 2 vibe
Oh,
as
yeah.
you were discussing,
Yeah,
man.
there was
It
just
really
so
did.
many moments that were just so out of left field that like you needed that humor.
That,
that
it was a
kinda, like,
weird balance of tone, though. At times, I was like, I didn't even feel like I was watching a Conjuring movie.
No,
Sometimes.
at times I didn't either.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing.
Which is where the Tales from the Crypt comparison kind of makes
It
sense.
felt
a little
like
bit.
okay. I guess if I could make sort of a comparison to a hugely popular franchise, it felt like almost a Thor Ragnarokian departure
Taika
from the series because it was so over the top and so not grounded in this eerie, like tense atmosphere that all of the other movies were.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was
Like
totally
this
different.
tried
I
to
don't
be,
know,
but it was
man.
it
I
was
thought
so
Conjuring,
much more.
I thought Conjuring 2 had some very fantastical moments too,
It
where
did. Well, with
the
with
crooked
like
man.
the crooked
Yeah.
man,
Sure.
and even
But it
even
wasn't
Valak
all
in
that.
that movie.
This was easy.
At the end, yeah.
Yeah, like that was just like so crazy.
But they even
with the
had to
window
mimic. They
and
even had to
everything.
steal from themselves and do the exact same Valak in the shadow form on the wall thing.
It's fine when
They
you steal from
literally did the
yourself,
same
though.
thing.
It's fine when you steal from yourself. It's
No,
like a
you
band
can't
that
do the
it's like a
exact
band that's
same
written a
thing.
really, really good song, and then they
Yeah.
write another song that's kind of like that
Except
song.
it wasn't as good because it wasn't a painting at the end. It was something else, which we won't ruin, but
Yeah,
it was
but
not as good.
I'm so with Dirk's, especially in the third act. This was the goofiest and the goriest of the franchise,
was
and
good.
that's where those Evil Dead 2. I mean, not quite Army of Darkness.
Well,
in
even
it,
Silent
but-
Hill, it like felt like
Yeah.
a video game towards the
I
end.
would agree with that.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
did.
agree with
It did.
that.
Yeah.
Well, especially with the super spooky atmosphere contrasted with all of the other
And all
just
the
wacky
nuns
things
in
going
that
on.
movie.
Yeah. And
I
then
was
when
just
they
like-
kind of slithered around
Yeah,
and did all that
I-
shit.
yeah, I
They
was just
did-
like,
they
oh.
moved like the nurses from
They
Silent
did.
Hill
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, no, they
Yeah.
didn't. Their heads did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then they slowly started going.
Well,
Oh,
and yet Cecil just reminded me of, as far as good set pieces in this go, if we're going to get into the production design
Yes,
and
let's
just
do
the
so.
way it was filmed and stuff like that, there is one, like, the above shot with Tyson in
Yes.
the middle.
That's
and
one of
all
those
the
3 or 4
nuns
moments I
surrounding
was talking
her.
about.
So good.
Dope.
100% one of the moments I was like,
that's
not only
maybe,
that, but the follow-up shots too, where
Yeah.
it happens and then you just see,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you know, like that was really that I
scene
agree
was
with.
framed so good, and that
Mhm.
and that's the thing is that I haven't seen the Hallow, is it?
The Hallow, yeah, the
other one
director's
that
other-
Corin Hardy did.
I don't know if it's still on Netflix. It was Once Upon a Time, and
Yeah.
that don't look for the Hollow.
And don't look for Once Upon a Time.
HOLLOW. Look for the Hallow. HALLOW. That
Yeah.
is good.
A.
The Hallow
Yeah.
is good, not the Hollow.
No.
And not Once Upon a Time.
They both came out in the same year, I believe. And The Hollow was a really shitty Forest movie that came out around the same time as The
I
Forest.
remember
And then
now. Yeah,
don't
yeah,
see
yeah.
the gallows either.
Don't see The Gallows. if it, yeah, that's the
Listen
thing.
to the band
Be
The
very
Gallows,
careful.
actually, because that's a good punk band.
Hashtag
from
The
UK.
Hallow, yes. The Gallows, no.
Yes. And Once Upon a Never.
Alright, so,
No, but dude, a beautiful looking movie.
It was gorgeous. The
Throughout, and that is the
cinematography
one
was
thing that you
great.
cannot deny is how
But
great this
again,
movie
the
looked,
cinematography-
despite the script shortcomings.
The cinematography felt like it was either the same cinematographer from someone's James Wan's movies, or it was a guy just watching James Wan's movies and going, okay, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to
True,
do that.
but you
and
know
then I'm
what?
gonna do
I
that.
mean, you take notes from the masters, especially if you're
Yeah,
someone who's
but
only directed a feature or two
you
like
take
this
notes,
guy.
but then you do your own spin. You can't
felt like this
just
had-
do the same thing.
I kind of felt like this had its own flavor to
Yeah,
it. a
definitely
little
with
bit,
the
at least
cemetery.
visually.
Not enough of no. The cemetery is literally what I'm thinking about. Where it starts and it goes to a side, a profile shot, and you're like, oh, there's this much room in the frame. Something's gonna pop up in
But
the
you
back.
know-
There it is.
But you know,
Yeah.
eventually
And that's,
it
you know-
just
Well,
boils down to
we haven't seen a cemetery in the
Yeah, no,
Conjuring
it's true,
verse,
it's
the
true.
Stretch it,
James
bro.
Wan
You're
verse.
stretching.
Well,
I don't know,
Honestly,
and
we
then
haven't
that's where
seen-
the practical effects came in too, man.
Which were good, and like I
Yeah.
mean, and like the jaws falling off and
Oh,
all that
jeez.
stuff.
That
and,
was
I
good.
mean, yeah, there was
and
cool.
it almost
shit.
had like a Return of the Living Dead feel to
a little bit, which I love.
But
also.
there was so much by
Back
the
to the
numbers.
goofiness of
When
it.
like when we like saw the bells for the first time, she's like, "What's this?" Oh, that's a bell. If someone from the plague thought they were buried alive, I'm like,
Okay, there
here
were-
come the bells.
I
How
know
many
that-
times are we gonna see
But
the bells
that
in the
was
rest of the movie?
fucking
And I-
cool.
and I know we already touched on
even though
story.
they
there is some really stupid character logic and
Yes.
moments in this movie. That was one of the things that did bug me. I feel like
How would
I
she
feel like
just
Picard's-
suddenly go, Father, we're like, how did
And
she
also,
know
well, and
all of a
also,
sudden?
if he is sent to investigate something like this, don't you think he'd be a little more well versed in the history
Yeah, if
of
he's
that
sent
time?
to weird
and the
stuff,
type of
why
Well,
stuff
they
is
he's
gave him a
walking
file,
into?
even though the file wasn't very thick.
Yeah, really? Here's 2 pieces of paper
Yes.
explaining everything.
I will spend more time just drinking the wine than walking
Yeah.
around telling stories of.
I'm gonna smirk like a child molester. Ugh.
Yeah, I don't
Anyway.
know.
Well, these Catholics. I mean,
Oh
That
my.
was the subtext, Fuego.
Sorry,
Thank you for
guys.
putting it right on Front Street,
I'm
though.
thinking of the South Park episode where they had them on leashes.
I
the
got
little
you. Oh,
naked
Jesus.
boys.
All right. No.
Anyway.
Oh jeez.
All right. So, no, I agree. The
Cecil's kind of-
cinematography was good. I will say, though, once again, one of the things that these movies do excel at is the sound design.
Yeah.
I think the sound design is always effective. Honest to God, more of these scares in these movies nowadays, especially out of the Conjuring verse, whatever you want to call it, it's largely the sound design.
Yeah.
Believe it, as much as I made fun of it earlier, that is still super effective.
It's always effective for me.
Super effective. Not only, they used it so
Even
many
when
times.
you know it coming.
They used it with the bagheads. They used it with the head nun thing, right? That moment where it's like, and it's like, okay, but still,
Or even,
it's
even the
effective
nun that was
every
praying
time.
by her bed.
Yes, but it's still effective every time.
Yeah.
So I have to, like, again, while I hammer it for being something that's overused, it's used because it's effective every time.
true.
So I have to give it credit for that.
And I
but
don't
it's
think it
not
got old
creative,
either.
but it's
Yeah.
effective. Like, I don't know what to say about it other than that. But other sounds, what I did like, except for one thing, and you guys would both appreciate this, okay? I did like the reference to the nun ominous, where it's like the that noise when the nun was around sometimes. What I didn't like was the beat that was ripped directly from Mortal Kombat, where it's like when the nun is like coming up out of something later on in the movie.
I love
All I
that.
could think about
I
was
didn't make
the
that
Mortal
comparison.
Kombat guys walking onto the island and just hearing go. It was literally the same sound. So
I
that's
didn't
the
make the
only
comparison.
bit. Well,
I didn't either.
That's the only bit. If you guys are Mortal Kombat heads like I am, I love that first movie for some reason.
That was a $500
When the
pair of
nun
sunglasses,
rises,
asshole.
when the nun rises at one point, you will think, "Oh shit, that's what Cecil's talking about." I guarantee you. Guys, I think that's probably where we should call our non-spoiler review.
Non-spoiler? Yeah. Well,
Non-spoiler review. That's a
fine.
good. So honestly, that's interesting. I walked out of the theater. I didn't walk out with these guys because we were sitting separately, and I had to go pick up some rant juice from the supermarket on the way home. Could you tell? But we start the review, and all of a sudden we have one guy that thinks it's the fucking second best movie of the year. Whoa!
But Cecil has
it's what's
accused
really
me of
funny is
recently being
it's-
very mad
Yeah,
about
he's
things.
and Fuego has his ass firmly planted on the picket fence once again. But it's funny because it's hot on the heels of Dirk's and my reaction to the Halloween trailer, where
Yeah,
we're
I know.
once again polar opposites.
I know.
But anyway, this was
okay.
a fun review. I dug it, guys.
Good
I guess
energy.
the best thing to say would be go make up your own mind.
Truly.
Yeah,
If
definitely.
you like the Conjuring films, definitely check this out and see if you're here, somewhere in between.
Yeah. Are you here? Are you there? Or are you somewhere in between?
If you
along
like
this
Evil
guy?
Dead, if you like Silent Hill, if you like Return of the Living Dead, go see
You'll
this
see
movie.
it all again
Go
in this
see
movie.
this movie.
You'll see it all again in this movie.
And yet, I think that's definitely one of the things that surprised me the most about this movie was the tone. Big time. I was not expecting it.
All right, so we'll
I
call it
wasn't.
there. Let's call it
Yeah.
there. We'll get into the spoilers and we'll go crazy with it. So thank you guys very much for watching. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, Fuego.
And Dirk Herring.
Thank you very much to all of our patrons for supporting the channel monetarily as well as viewership-wise. The link is in the description box down below if you want to join the Patreon army of ours. We actually just posted our review and commentary of Halloween 2, and this week we are posting our review and commentary of The Monster Squad. So sign up in the link below if you want to take part in that. But yeah, until next time, guys, thanks for watching, and remember, stay scared!